Hello everybody, it's Larry. In this video we're going to talk about a few topics, and we're also going to mention some stuff about what's coming up in the future. So if you stay at the end, we're going to tell you some really important news about what's going to be put out in some future videos. And you're going to want to know and see those for sure, I guarantee you. So first, let's go over what's changed recently at Ancestry. So if we go to the card catalog, you can tell that Ancestry is, since the last time we talked about this, remember we did a video that says 24 million records have been added? Well, 25 million more records have been added, and only 3.2 million of those are in the United States. The Florida county marriages, Connecticut marriage and death records, and the Idaho reconstructed 1890 census. There's only 35,000 records there, but still, between the other two in Connecticut, 3.2 million Connecticut records. That's a really big group, but mostly it pertains to World War II. And as you may or may not know, this is the 75th anniversary of Normandy, and in observance of that, Ancestry has digitized a lot of the information surrounding that. And you have the registration of foreigners and German persecutees from 1939 to 1947. These are a direct result of World War II. 10.1 million records. That is a huge trove of information. And then also the Africa, Asia, and Europe passenger list of displaced persons. And that began, post-war in 1946 through 71. So you want to check those out, and there's a lot of good information there. Also, second part of this of 3 parts, we got some stuff coming on Patreon pretty soon. What I do is I have some tools that I use, and I want to say thank you to those of you who have taken the time to go to patreon.com and support us there. And so here's a tool that I use, and this is going to be uploaded and it'll be free to all the Patreon people. What you do is you enter the names of a family group, okay? And so this is one family group, Wilson Taylor and his family, and I enter where they're born and their birth years, and the birth years are important, and male and female, the genders. So what it does, if I have a year of marriage right here, before the year of marriage, the heading will be red, and that heading being red tells you the people were single in that year. The husband was a single husband and wife. So if I change this to 1841, see how now the 1840 has turned red, and if I turn it back to 1831, it changes it to green. So green means it's going to be a family unit I'm looking for, and red means I'm looking for single people. So I'm looking for him to be single, or her to be single. And, that's helpful. For her, I'm looking for, a Mary Pickens in 1820, age 4. Now, in 1820, it won't show her name. So I'm looking for a Pickens in Virginia that has a daughter, had that covered up, that would be 0 to 5. And same thing here, I'm looking for a son that's between 10 and I think in that one 10 to 16 in 1820. And so looking at these, I look at them by columns. Now this is very useful. So I'm looking at the 1860 census. I'm looking for him to be 51 or 52, her to be 44, and then 28, 26, 24, 22, 21, with the youngest kids being 1 and 4. So is that how it turned out? I actually have that one, and I'll pull that up for you here real quick. I got that all minimized. So here is the 1870. Open the media file, bring it over where you can see it, and zoom in. All right, so we've got, oh no, we wanted to look at the 1860. Well, that was a catastrophic flop, wasn't it? So let's bring the 1860 one back over here, and that's fit with. All right, so we've got Wilson Taylor. It says he's 51, and the wife is 45, 28, 26, 24, 22, 20. Okay, now is that what we wanted it to be? So let's go back over and enlarge. Have a little technical difficulty on the. Get this all minimized. Apologies. There we go. So 1860, we're looking for 28, 26, 24, 22, 21, 20, with the youngest being 1, 4, and 5. All right, so we come back over here. We've got 28, 26, 24, 22, 20 instead of 21. And then down here, the youngest 6 of 12, that was 1, 4, and 5. All right, so I know that this is the right family unit. And I was able to determine that because over here on that spreadsheet, let's close this down. I was able to, look at it and say, okay, in the 1860 census, I'm looking for these ages. And I find that to be real helpful, even in the later censuses. Now, you see it goes up to 142. Obviously, they didn't live to be 142, but I don't know when the person died because, I'm looking up records and I'm researching them. And until I have a death certificate or some information, I can't really close out their years. Now, I do have several relatives that lived over, the 90 to the 100 mark. So it wouldn't be surprising to see them, in that area. So at some point in there, also if I'm looking for, a child, like here's a male Francis Marion, if I'm looking for him and his stuff, I know in the 1910, I can look for him individually at about age 55, 54, somewhere in there. This becomes very, very helpful if you're like in the 1840, where it only lists the male head of household. It'll show him, but it'll show, it'll say Wilson Taylor or Wilson F. Taylor or W.F. Taylor or however it looks. And it'll say 30 to 40, and it'll have one male. And then on the female, it'll have one between 20 and 30 on the female. And then, I can look here because of the genders and say, okay, I've got a female between 5 and 10, and I've got a male between 5 and 10, and then right here I've got 3 females between 0 and 5 and 1 male between 0 and 5. And using this one, I was actually able to discern which one was their census. One thing that's not in this list was the mother-in-law. And the mother-in-law lived with them the entire time. So because of that, I was able to find her. Not only did I find these family members here, but I was able to find the mother-in-law. And so by adding her and checking her age, I could find a great family story that they lived with her from the time they were married until the time she passed away, well into her 70s. So for nearly 40-something years they lived together. I think 4 or 5 censuses they were together. Incredible story there. And she had inherited land from her husband who fought in the Revolution. He got a land grant and she inherited that, and so she stayed on the land and they stayed with her. They gave them land to work on and a way to live, and so they just stayed there. And she needed somebody there, and of course they had lots and lots of kids, and so she stayed there and helped them raise the children. I mean, you can tell right away. 1831, by 1840, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 children in the first 8 years. So yeah, the mother-in-law stayed there and helped them, and was there the whole time. So I'll put this tool up on Patreon probably in the next week or two, and then I'm going to polish it just slightly. And then also I've got another one for the Y-DNA. And what it does is you got the groupings on FTDNA where they put you in different groups. They have a little tool that determines what grouping you're supposed to be in. And then sometimes if you've only done like a older test, like a Y12 or 25, they don't even group you anymore. And so what my tool does, it takes that information and gives you the people who are closest to you, even if they're not in the group they assigned you to. And that's pretty handy there. In fact, some mild contacts went on there. Nothing ever came about it. But, it is a very handy tool for finding out who else in that surname group could be, related to you, maybe more so than what they projected. So I'll be putting some of these tools up with some frequency over on Patreon as a way of saying, thank you to all the Patreon supporters there. So the other thing we have going, and we come back over here, we've got, I'm just going to announce that the next thing we're going to talk about, and this is part 3, and this also leads into video. I've been working on the video. I have the information. I'm not an animation person. I'm a programmer, very technical, but I don't have animations of my own. I'm not good with that. So if you are, get with me. We can collab on this and make this, upcoming video really special. Otherwise, I'm going to be taking pictures into like some PowerPoint slides and discussing them. But what we're going to talk about is the ethnicity, and a lot of people really, like the ethnicity portion of the test. Okay, they're not doing it for the autosomal and for the genealogy. They want to know what their heritage is, and we're going to do basically a two-part video. And I don't think I'm going to get it out the door next week. Slight possibility if somebody steps up and helps me with some animation. But otherwise, it's probably 2 weeks, possibly 3. But I'm looking for 2 weeks out. And what we're going to be, it's going to be first, how do they come about and give you your ethnicities? Because, right here, it says I'm 65% England, 23% Scot-Irish, 3 Sweden, 3 Norway, which adds up to 6%. Now, in my previous estimate, England was only 50, not 65, and the Scot-Irish was 12, not 23. And so how did it change, and why did it change? Now, see right here, 3,000 reference samples, 363 possible regions. This information that you and I normally just simply ignore. And to be honest, be honest with me here. Did you even look at that or know what that number is? I mean, it's probably different for you. Did you look at this, or did you just look at these percentages and go on? I would bet, if you're honest, you didn't look at those. So what is that? And how do they come about that percentage? And lastly, is it accurate? And I think, in some cases, you're going to be really, really surprised. So stay tuned for that. I think, we had that one video that had 20,000 views in the first day. That wasn't expected. I appreciate that. But I think this one, honestly, is going to be the most informative. I think it's going to be interesting to more people than any other video we've probably done. And I think that's kind of why it's stalled off so much, is because I know it's going to be so interesting that I kind of have a higher bar on how I want to present it. But to be honest with you, since I'm unable to do the animation, it's just going to have to come out the door. And so, in a couple of weeks, we're putting it out, even if it looks like my 2-year-old or something drew it with chalk on a chalkboard. We're going to get it out to you. So, upcoming, look forward to the ethnicity, how do they do it, and is it accurate? Be 2 videos separating that out, because one is how they do it. It's very mathy, but we're going to make it very understandable. And then is it accurate? And I know you're going to absolutely be surprised, both in a positive and in a slightly negative way, depending on what your ethnicity is, on how the accuracy of your results. And so we're going to delve down into right down into the nitty gritty on that. But we're going to try and make that nitty gritty high level where everybody, can see and understand it. So hopefully we'll either get some animation. If not, we'll get some cheesy graphics and put with it and get it out for you in the next couple of weeks. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said, we got the 3 parts. Don't forget to check out the card catalog. 25 loading. 25 million new records, 3 million in the United States. We got some tools. They're going to be, starting to go up on Patreon as a thank you for our Patreon supporters. And then an announcement that upcoming we're going to have a really good expose on the ethnicity, how they come about, and is it accurate. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If not, well, I'm sorry. I'll do better next time. Anyway, here's wishing you all a great weekend.